A while ago, you and I asked the question, what would have happened if Bendy and the Ink Machine was real? Now, let's revisit that with the newest game fresh in our minds. That's what we're exploring today, so let's do it. Alright, right now, let's go. To answer this question, we first need to ask the question, what is the Ink Machine? The Ink Machine was installed by the cartoon studio's owner Joey Drew and the Gen Company to create living entities for their actual animations. Wally Franks was the only person allowed to be an attendant to the Ink Machine, and it is also the main plot device that's triggering many of the events throughout just the series in general because of the ink that flows through the machine. Basically, it's a giant ink machine that uses ink and human souls to make living versions of the Joey Drew Studios characters, but it also didn't really start out like this. Originally, the Ink Machine functioned like a 3D printer, where sketches would turn into real 3D dimensional models and figures. However, somehow the machine gets enchanted or corrupted in some way, and it changes to allow all these cartoons to create living versions. The characters also have multiple variations, with some characters being made out of only ink and others being infused with human souls. When infused with the soul, however, the Ink Machine may get a paper jam in a sense. Basically, those pure of heart or those who have a genuine love for the character would turn into perfect versions of the character they most relate to, while those with impure intentions or any corrupt individuals or those who just want to be famous, for instance, would just turn into evil versions of those characters. Basically, the Ink Machine acted as your partner's father that you're meeting for the first time, asking you what your intentions are and then judging you based on your response, but also the response that you don't say, the one that you think. The evil versions of characters like Bendy and Alice Angel turn into the antagonists of the games, whereas the perfect versions like Mecha Boris and Perfect Alice turn into our allies, even if they are sometimes made completely of ink. If this machine was real, how much damage would it do? Unfortunately, there would probably be a lot of human sacrifice in this story, if I'm being honest, since to make versions that can live outside of the ink, the character would need to have a human soul. There would also need to be someone who was actively sacrificing these people to the machine to create these characters, either in an effort to make an army or just to promote the characters even more. And you know what? You know who I'm thinking would do that? I said it before, but you're damn right, it's Disney, okay? Disney is just the kind of company that would sacrifice humans to an ink machine in an effort to promote or market themselves even more, okay? This is like the next step to extending Mickey Mouse's copyright. That's what they're gonna have to do. The idea that they could fill their parks with actual living versions of their characters would be an impossible idea for them to pass up, and honestly, I get why. Okay, being the first place to have real versions of cartoon characters that aren't just a costume, that, oh my god. And plus, so many people grew up with these characters too, it would just solidify that they're a growing monopoly, and would in essence make them the world's biggest superpower, even more so than they pretty much are now. Nobody would be talking about Elon Musk destroying Twitter, and honestly, nobody would care about the streamies, especially since to even get nominated, you have to pay $1,000. There you go, there's the T. But it doesn't matter, because nobody would care, okay? We would all be in awe of Disney and their real-life characters. As kids, we think that the characters that we are meeting are the real ones, but then as we grow older, we grow out of this illusion. So, this would suck even the adults back to meet the real characters. People who as kids grew up watching Peter Pan. You can meet a real flying Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell, get it? Ink. Anyway, the ability to create these characters in real life is something that Disney wouldn't pass up, okay? Not for a minute. The question is though, how would they get the souls? They could just force the characters who already wear the suits at the parks into the machines. I mean, they don't really care about worker safety anyways, but this could also result in evil versions of the characters, like an evil melting Cinderella, which wouldn't really be good for kids, although I'm pretty sure the dads would be into it. The best bet would probably just be to have some form of job opening where you would apply and then be given a questionnaire to fill out, followed by an interview. And the same would be with any other job, except they're turning you into a cartoon character instead of destroying your dreams. Plus, then they would also have to deal with whoever came out wrong because they lied to get the job, and then, you know, they just take them out back. And that's what Disney would do. But what the Dark Revival reveals is that this doesn't have to just be one person or company. Wilson manages to turn the machine on again, meaning that if Disney had lost control of this machine because they were too busy trying to illegally extend Mickey's copyright or whatever, then someone else could take over the machine and wreak some havoc. But it would also mean that our world would have its own version of the cycle, which is the area where the Dark Revival takes place. This would essentially mean that if Bendy and the Dark Revival was real, that the backrooms would be real. That this they would just be presented in different forms. And this time, the backrooms would be the cycle. The backrooms, for those of you who don't know, is a creepypasta story, I'm pretty sure, meant to describe a sort of developer area of sorts, where discarded and broken test items and levels were placed before they released the real-life simulation that we're all playing, you know? Or at least that's the best way to describe it, although I don't actually think that's exactly what it is. I don't know if the simulation is canon in the backroom story. You can only access this place by no-clipping through the world, or as one company proves, opening the right portal. However, the no-clipping could easily be replaced with being submerged in ink, or maybe the ink could be like an area that you no-clip through. Like a puddle of ink on the ground would just be intangible, causing you to fall through it into the cycle, which in this scenario I think would be the best way to combine the two worlds, since realistically I don't think anything else would cause this to be enough of an issue that this video would be justified. So yeah, we're gonna have to roll with that. So there's your explanation for that. Alright, stepping into a puddle of ink, that's how we link the worlds. If it's big enough, at least it would cause you to fall into the cycle, but from there, what would happen? I mean, there are many possibilities. You could get killed by searchers, the Butcher Gang, the Ink Demon, you could team up with Alice, maybe Wilson won't be so goddamn creepy since you're not related to Joey, or maybe you'd also turn into a searcher, or I guess not also, but maybe instead you'd turn into a searcher. I mean, Alice even tells Audrey that she's lucky she didn't get turned into one. And maybe the ink puddles themselves, or falling into them, would be like being put through the ink machine, since you'd have to have an ink form to be in the cycle. So this could result in you becoming a mindless beast who only wants to kill. Plus, nobody would know what happens to these people. I mean, if someone watched you fall into a puddle of ink, I think that they would either like step onto it themselves going what the hell and then fall in, or just run away, because that's probably what I would do. But would anyone believe that they saw someone fall into a puddle of ink? No, it would turn into the freaking UFO abductions of this new version of Earth, okay? But instead of being abducted themselves, it would be people saying that they saw someone fall into ink. No one was gonna believe that, man, okay? Eventually, someone fanatical enough would probably form the SpaceX of investigating the ink, and maybe something would come of it, but then Twitter would also turn into a dumpster fire like it is right now, so we can't really be sure if they would succeed. I mean, getting any information involving the cycle would require you to be able to come back from the cycle. But given that Wilson takes us into the ink and then says he's affected their lives for almost a year, maybe it is possible. But then again, he also told Audrey that it was time they both died. So I'm not really sure about what's going on there. I don't know if that's him like coming out of the cycle and turning it back on to go back, or if that's just him being a tool. I can't really know. So if the Elon Musk of InkX was able to find Wilson, maybe he could learn more about the cycle without having to go there. But even with like a video of people traveling into the ink, nobody would believe that it's true until they actually witnessed it in person. Even now, when you see Backrooms videos, okay, we say they're fictional, that they're just a creepypasta and an ongoing narrative on YouTube. But if that wasn't the case, none of us would know. So for the world to truly know about the dangers of the ink, or for Elon to actually get investors in InkX, he would have to show them a live demonstration. The various cans of soup that you can find in Dark Revival that restore health could be from these demonstrations for investors, to prove that anything that does touch this ink goes somewhere else. You know, you just like pour a puddle of ink on the table and you drop the can and it just falls through, and then it's not below the table and everyone freaks out. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking here. But that still doesn't solve how anyone could actually come back. So there you go, alright? If Bendy and the Dark Revival was real, we would have some missing people. Some people would be treated as loons, claiming that they saw people fall into ink, and one eccentric 1%er trying to show the world that those ravings are true and not actually loons would just absolutely terrorize the world. And then, once the government found out about this, they would definitely start using it to their advantage, okay? We would have like a war using ink-based weaponry, where they would cover an area with ink so that anyone who was there wouldn't be dead, but they also wouldn't be a problem. It would also probably make for interesting home security systems, or even keeping a vial of ink on your nightstand could be a form of self-defense. Although at that point, you'd really want to avoid cheating on your significant other, getting on their bad side if they're crazy like that. I feel like I know a couple people crazy like that. I personally think that I would like to become a Batman, but instead instead I would be Inkman, and I would send people to the cycle instead of jail or the hospital, which I think funny as all hell. I think that that's a great idea, and someone should write that sketch. Please credit me because I need the promotion. And if you want to know more about like what video games would be like if they were real, or more about the back rooms and video games and Bendy stuff like that, we got plenty of that here too. So be sure you check out those videos and check out the video that's about to pop up. Thanks for watching.